What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30. So when it comes to the way the markets move, I just want to mention that we're trying to rebound during this pre-market session, but there's going to be a gap above. So we're going to gap up when we open, but then I'm going to be watching to see if we get some kind of pullback move because I'm concerned about this Michigan consumer sentiment data. Just know that consumer sentiment might not be very good, especially the 5-year inflationary expectations. They could still be elevated with a lot of fears involving tariffs, the recession, and things just like that. So just be very careful at 10 o'clock a.m. when this data comes out today. That's 30 minutes after the stock market opens. But even if we do see some kind of pullback move, the question is, can we make a higher low? If we make a higher low, there's a chance that this could still reverse, and we could be looking for a very, very nice, sizable bounce heading into the end of the day, if not going into next week. And we have some catalysts that could be causing that, right? The first thing is that there's this government shutdown of fear that's kind of like spreading right now about how there's a lot of debates right now going on in the Senate, but this is typically what happens. What typically happens is we see our Congress just debate and argue and argue and argue over the government funding bill. It gets very, very political. Then at the very last minute, they end up pushing the bill and we end up avoiding a government shutdown. That's what's been happening for many, many years. And in this case, we're hoping we see the same thing. I really hope that we don't see a government shutdown. It's going to be very, very detrimental, especially for federal workers who are not going to be paid. At least many of them won't be paid, not all of them, but just many of them won't be if they're considered quote unquote non-essential workers. That's the term that they use, by the way. That's not me trying to say that. But my point is, this is a big piece of news. And if these people know, if these institutions know that this is going to pass, the bill is going to pass, and we're going to avoid the shutdown, they could even start to, run the stocks the day before, because that could be one of the reasons. It could also be because of optimism about this. So keep that in mind. When it comes to President Trump's tariffs, I just want to say that as time has progressed, he has increased tariffs on steel and aluminum to about 25%. And we saw a lot of talk about retaliatory tariffs from Europe and Canada for many, many days. And then Donald Trump has threatened 200% tariffs on European alcohol after they planned a 50% tariff on American whiskey. So it's just going back and forth and back and forth. One thing that's good, though, I'm going to make this very clear, is that for now, Donald Trump is not scheduled to make big tariff announcements until the beginning of April, especially April 2nd. During the next 2 weeks, though, it's possible he does say things here and there. He does make threats here and there against, different countries. He threatened more tariffs on Canada, for example. But like I said before, nothing was imposed. He's not officially imposing 200% tariffs on European alcohol yet, unless he changes his plans. But nothing major is scheduled until a couple of weeks from now. At least that's what is, being said so far. So if he doesn't impose way too many tariffs for like a week or at least a week and a half, that could give some leeway for the markets. It's a strong possibility. But the threats could still continue, and we'll just have to see how well the market kind of like takes those. So please keep that in mind. And then one more factor affecting us is going to be Russia, Ukraine. The deal that they're trying to sign for a ceasefire has not passed yet. Ukraine has agreed to it, but Russia is still saying that more work has to be done. So we'll see how it goes. If they come up with a deal over the weekend, that's also going to be another bullish catalyst for the markets. We'll see how long it takes for them to come up with that. That's it for earnings. Nothing too significant for today. And there's still extreme fear that's making up the majority of sentiment. So that being said, I just want to focus on the charts. So I think what's going to happen is, with this data coming out, there might be a little dip, a little bit of a dip move right over here. But we have to see how low we dip. Can we make a higher low here? If we lose the low at 550, then yes, there's going to be a risk of a bigger decline to continue, right? But then we're going to be watching to see if we get a bounce towards either the end of the day to return to our levels, if not by Monday, right? Depending on the government shutdown news. I do anticipate there's going to be a nice bounce coming very soon to the markets, but for now, we're looking for this downside move, and we're going to see if we can make a higher low or not. So watch and see where we end up basing at. Do we dip to just 552 and then bounce? Do we dip to 555 and bounce? We're going to be watching where this thing bases before we see some kind of reversal move like this. That's what I'm essentially looking for. So get ready for a small dip. I do think there might be a small dip with this data. And then if we get this small dip, can we see a bounce from there by the end of the day? If not by Monday, I'll be watching that in anticipation of the government shutdown being avoided and factors like that. On the QQQ, same thing. We are looking like we might see a little dip here, especially as we have a pre-market gap over here around this 471 area. So will we lose 467 and turn bearish? If we do, we could be looking for a further decline before it tries to see a bounce by the end of the day, if not by next week. Or will it be a small dip? Will it be a small dip to 467 to 470, and then we hold support end of the day, and then we just start bouncing for next week, if not by the end of the day? I'll be watching to see where we end up bottoming. Do we bottom at 467 to 470, or do we go even lower? So watch for that very, very closely. On the IWM Russell 2000, we also have this bullish divergence. I want to see us break 202 to try to reverse. Keep in mind that we could end up kind of dipping here. We're going to be looking at this gap down here around 199. So if we dip back down to 199, we'll have to see if we get some kind of reversal move. And then we'll see if we end up bouncing or not. If we end up losing 198, we could dip a lot more, but we're going to be watching this very closely. Might push a little bit, and then we'll see if we can try to hold this low. So watch to see if 199 holds or not. If it does, we could be looking for a reversal. If we end up losing 198, we could be dumping a lot more, but we'll have to see how it goes with this accumulation. So be careful, guys. Just watch to see how low we go. Do we form a base at 198, or do we go a little bit lower if there's more tariff talk before we see some kind of reversal? I'm watching to see how low we go first before we get that bounce. On ES, we are looking decent. We're watching this trend line as our support that's holding so far. Will ES kind of dip like this for a small move down before it tries to reverse? Will we see a bigger dip to test this trend line? As of right now, the trend line's holding. That's going to be around the low 5,500s to be our main support. If that holds, we could be bouncing to 5650 plus and eventually 5700. On NQ, we're looking decent. We need to hold 19,000. As long as it holds, we could bounce. We see some kind of pullback move. Watch and see if we try to return to this trend line. If that breaks, we're looking for a squeeze up to about 19,800. So watch and see if we could base here or not. Bitcoin has resistance around 83,000. If that breaks, we're looking for 84,000. So it has potential, but 83,688 is going to be a tough resistance. We'll see if we break through that or not. Might see a pullback move first before it tries to bounce. We're also going to be watching this trend line acting as our support right here. So watch that, at least for now. That's going to be very key for the way Bitcoin continues to move. Let me be kind of quick with the rest of these. I think we're running out of time here. Nvidia looks bullish. As long as we can hold above 120, we're looking for 124. I do not want to see us lose 114 to turn bearish. Might dip a little bit, but as long as 114 holds, we could still bounce, try to get back up to the 120s. Tesla's looking a little bit decent right now. However, I just want to call out that we have this trend line acting as resistance. So we will see if we end up getting some kind of pullback move to fill this gap. And if we hold support slowly and then eventually break 250, as long as we're above 250, we're looking for an attempt to push for 262, especially as we have this gap to fill. So please keep that in mind. Apple has this 210 area. We'll have to see if we could hold that. If that holds, we're looking for a reversal to 214. So keep that in mind and watch and see if 210 holds. Coin also has a gap to fill below, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a small pullback move. So there might be a pullback move here to fill that gap around 178. Then we'll see if we bounce. If we could hold this low, there's likely going to be some kind of rebound. So give it some time. Amazon can also dip here. We have this support around 195. And we'll see if we get a rebound. I do anticipate some downside to be coming. So we could be dipping to 194 to 195, and we'll see if we get some kind of bounce from here. So keep that in mind. For Meta has a double bottom here. We'll have to see if we break 610 to really start pushing for 630. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of dip move here, and then we'll see if we get a rebound. So watch that very, very closely. For Microsoft, we have 383 is our resistance. If that breaks, we have this resistance at 388. We could be dipping here before it attempts some kind of rebound, but I do think that it depends on if this low holds. So we should be dipping to 378 to 380. If we lose 378, we're looking for a bigger decline first before it attempts to reverse. And then with that being said, the last one I'm going to talk about is Google. Google is in my opinion, looking quite, it's still kind of weak right now. We might decline a little bit here towards 164. We'll see if this low holds. If not, we could be dumping more. Then we'll see if we get some kind of balance, but watch to see how low we go. The VIX has a gap to fill above, so I'm going to be watching to see, Does the VIX get a temporary bounce here to test our 20 EMA, then it rejects like this? That could be the move that's about to be made. Maybe the market does see a small dip before it tries to see a bounce, possibly. So look for a small downside move, especially after we open. There might be a small little dip here. Be careful with this data coming out at 10 o'clock a.m., and then we'll see what happens. Lastly, keep in mind that even if we do see a dip, we do have the government shutdown news and other catalysts that could cause the market to launch upwards later on, maybe next week. So keep that in mind. Thank you for listening. I'll be back with another upload in a couple of hours, and peace out.